Hello and welcome to ProtoMet's First Impressions, where I give my thoughts on the first episode of any new tokusatsu series. And I wasn't actually expecting to have to make this video today. Well, okay, I chose to make this video. Anyway, in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about my impressions of the first episode of Himitsu Senshi Phantomirage. And yes, the X down there is silent. This is the first episode of the third entry in the Girls Senshi series, which, again, the X is silent. This is a magical girl tokusatsu series. And one of the fan subgroups that I follow actually decided to release it, so now I'm talking about it. Let me be completely frank. I'm not a fan of the magical girl genre. I have watched only a small handful of magical girl shows, and those were usually kind of out of the ordinary. Madoka Magica, Magical Girl Ore, the live-action Sailor Moon, which I'm actually in the midst of watching and find enjoyable. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about Phantomirage. So what do I think? Now, again, not a fan of the genre. I don't hate it, I'm just not a fan. But so, this is a completely biased review, though I will try to be fair. This first episode was pretty silly in places. Almost to a near self-aware level of silly. Like, there were some stuff that I kind of felt like they knew were being done just for the sillies, so it's good to know that it wasn't taking itself too seriously. I guess I should talk about what the actual plot is. There's this girl, Kokomi, I think is her name, who has this friend, Saki, if I remember. I could be misremembering these names, and these two decide that they're MeTube stars, where they film their own videos doing stuff for a video platform called MeTube. And apparently the only people who seem to actually watch their stuff are themselves and their family. And that is painfully relatable. So there's that. And then Kokomi ends up encountering this living stuffed bear thing, which I don't remember if they said what its name was, who is on the run from these reverse police who reverse arrest. Opposite police, opposite arrest. They're opposite police who opposite arrest nice people and turn them into naughty people, and they are silly. Real silly. Like, I feel that this show is funny in a not self-parodic way, while at the same time, I feel that it's not trying to be too silly, it just happens to be silly. It's kind of weird. But yeah, I'm having a hard time talking about this. I'm not going to lie. You can tell I'm out of my element with this. I don't really know what to say. I don't know how to compare this with other magical girl shows, because the ones that I have watched have been kind of not the standard. But this is a tokusatsu series. It is listed on the Tokusatsu wiki. So I gotta talk about it because it's a tokusatsu show. It's not that I don't want to talk about it, but fun fact, I watched this episode completely willingly, and like halfway through watching it, I remembered, oh right, I do this kind of show where I review this, so I gotta make this video. So anyway, these reverse police show up and they end up turning Kokomi's dad, who is a nice baker, into a naughty baker who mixes hot peppers into his cooked goods, which I'm sure Brian would have a hoot with. Tank, if you don't know, he'd have a hoot with that. So then the stuffed bear thing that I can't remember the name of gives Kokomi the ability to transform into a magical girl to save her dad. And then this dude who I guess is Kokomi's boss now, and who, honestly, if he took his costume off, I would imagine that this dude is just buff. He looks like he would be buff. He shows up. I can't remember what exactly he tells her, like, the first time he shows up, but, like, the second time he shows up is, like, at the end of the episode where he tells Kokomi that she isn't allowed to tell anyone that she's a magical girl because bad stuff will happen. And, yeah, he says it that vaguely. But Kokomi at the end of the episode really wants to tell Saki because Saki happened to be there when Kokomi was battling her dad. It was even took a photo of her. And I gotta say, for hiding their identities, this magical girl really just has like some stuff like on the sides of her eyes that are supposed to imitate a phantom thief mask. Think Lupin Ranger or Persona 5, those kind of masks. Except it's just on these sides of the face. It's not even covering the full eyes. It's just on the sides. So, and I get that this is just a standard trope of the magical girl genre where, when transformed, no one can tell who these magical girls are, even though they're really not hiding their identities, like, at all, most of the time. So, Kokomi, in her magical girl form, actually turns around to pose for her friend taking a cell phone pic of her. It's funny. There's one point where the bad guys are basically introducing themselves with kind of a dance number, and then a third member of their group shows up and then just simply disappears. The third member wasn't there before. She shows up for the introduction scene and then just disappears. And Kokomi calls them out on it. She's like, well, who is that third person that showed up there? She wasn't there before. Who is that? That was funny. Honestly, I think I probably might enjoy this series more for its silliness than for any actual content. But again, not a fan of the magical girl genre, and really only watching this because it's technically tokusatsu. And magical girl and tokusatsu really don't cross over all that much, which kind of surprises me because they're basically sibling genres. I would kind of expect there to be a bit more crossover. Most of the time, tokusatsu is more focused on targeting towards boys. Nothing wrong with that. Whereas magical girls are obviously more directed towards girls. And again, nothing wrong with that. And so, again, I just kind of wonder why there isn't more of a crossover between the two genres. Because, again, I have been watching the live-action Sailor Moon series and actually enjoying it. So there's again, and for the sake of clarity, I've only watched the live-action Sailor Moon. I haven't seen the original anime nor read the manga, so I don't actually know how it compares to the original source material. I'm just going off of what I have seen of that, and I'll get into a full review of that series someday. But for now, I can honestly say that I had fun watching Himitsu Senshi Phantomirage. That does not roll off the tongue quite as well as something like Super Sentai. And again, the X is silent. So, but I didn't dislike it. I had fun with it. It just was a little too much for a little too much for me. But yeah, it's not bad. If you want to check it out, go for it. If you're a fan of the magical girl genre, then I honestly don't know how you'd feel about this, but I don't think you would be offended. I don't think it was offensive bad. I didn't think it was bad. It was different. It was different. So I'm again really having a bit of a hard time really saying anything because this is so outside of my comfort zone. So I'm just gonna move on, post this video, and until next time, this has been me, ProtoMet. See ya.